And so they'd switch, from like Jira to some shit, and then like 5 minutes later, 5 months later, that like different person is like, this new thing, e-project or adaptive or whatever the hell you're using. We don't really like Rally. Let's switch something else. And they just keep doing fucking paperwork over and over. It's like, that's cool, guys. So basically, what I would do is I just kept, because I was a lead of the platform team, I just kept everything in an Excel spreadsheet, and I could always just copy paste into whatever the hell they wanted. Red score is now 5. Oh, shit. I'm scoring on my own goal. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to win the mission by scoring on myself. It kind of scares me working at giant companies. I feel a giant established project, if you want to change something, it's a huge change. Um, Giant projects are always changing because there's something always going on. Did we just fucking lose? Yeah, I just lost. There we go. I lost the first mission I played because I scored on myself 5 times because I'm an idiot. Like, that's kind of the thing is, like, with a large project, what's another 2 months? Like, oh, another 6 weeks for something. Oh yeah, we're gonna be here for 5 years. Oh, so of course we'll do the thing. Of course we'll switch over to that new system. It's an investment in time. So I think large projects are just not as static as you might expect. But maybe I have a different experience than other people. It's more the static stuff. I've heard complaints of like, this company just won't change. Is usually when you're working at a company like, actually, Psyonix is a good example of this. I have heard complaints from some of the ex-employees there. They make Rocket League. They're still using Unreal 3, and they're not upgrading to Unreal 4 for Rocket League. It's Unreal 3, and it's Victory. And so that's pretty old tech. And there's people there who are like, let's use Unreal 4. Let's get on the train to the modern era. And the guys are, the owners, and very rightfully, are just like, we don't give a shit. We are going to do what we want, and we want to stay on this. So it's more of on those projects where they've been successful, or like the established ones. Yeah, that's a good point. Like I know Kixeye with War Commander, which is written in Flash, or Game of War, whatever the hell their bullshit thing was written in. Like their CEO was talking to me on an interview thing, and then what would you change? It'd be like, well, I wouldn't use Flash because at that point Facebook games were getting banned from everywhere, and Flash was compromised, and corporations were starting to block it. So I was like, well, you can't use Flash anymore because a lot of your free to play people are just dicking around at work. You need to switch to HTML5 or something else in the browser because this isn't going to work in 6 months. And he's just like, you're full of shit. Well, yeah, they're not doing too well. Let me see. Are they still like around and being successful? War Commander, yeah, that was their thing. Yeah, so they're still doing their thing. All their shit still looks the same. But I know they had like a whole bunch of layoffs they had to do, and they haven't had a big successful game since War Commander, so they're still kind of riding on that thing. Let's see, I should just trash talk everybody because I am, sitting pretty in my basement by myself, rolling in cash, right? That's why I'm in a basement. Because I'm super rich and successful and everyone else is wrong and I'm right and I have opinions about it. You'll be doing this job for the experience? Oh, absolutely never. Um, like that's not something that is valid for engineers. Like you don't say like, well, you're not going to get paid as much because you're going to be learning this new thing or you're doing this to be more experienced. No, you're getting paid. Okay, so we have all those things. It's spawning balls as necessary. Someone tried to do that. Oh yeah, fuck those people. Isn't there like a YouTube video which is just fuck you, pay me? That's a good video about that and like he goes through all these different people who've pitched him stuff and just instead of instead of responding with anything else, it's just every response is no, fuck you, pay me. And it's true. I don't know. Yeah, take a look at some of this stuff. Go art, you get that all the time. Bounce. Alright, looks like it worked. Yeah, well, a bunch of postgrads trying to make a clone of Instagram. Well, they should probably make a couple clones of Instagram then. If they're gonna make one, why not a couple? Okay, so the post-stage state, what are we gonna do for that? Basically, for post-stage, has reached next state time. Yeah, we need to add a boolean here for auto end stage and auto end mission. And all those will be false. Yeah, even with internships with engineers, you don't get that. You get paid internships in any real company. The only times where you're going to be like an unpaid internship for a game company is either when you're getting screwed and somebody is just preying off your inexperience, or if it wouldn't be you're doing this for the experience. It's like you're doing this because this is a fun project, and like we'll all help each other out, and if we're successful, you'll be successful later, and that sort of shit. Okay, so we've got this local skip triggered. If we have a next stage, we'll go to the next stage. Otherwise, we'll trigger our exit cutscene. So we need think an event here for this. Skip mission cutscene. Alright, so let's do retry current mission as a thing we can do. Let's have end current mission. Let's have advance to next stage. So let's get these things in there. You're trying to find an internship. Searching sucks. Yeah. The only way you're going to find an internship for a lot of things is through a college, as far as I know. Because when I was in college trying to get an internship, and the internship people at the college were not helpful at all, because they're lazy dicks, I was unable to find anything. And that sucked, because when I got dumped into the job market, I struggled. I couldn't find a job for a very long time, and that sucked. And very long time for me was like 5 months, but very long time, that's probably short for a lot of people. But the way I was looking was, I was like, I will move anywhere tomorrow for a job, like sort of like anywhere, it doesn't matter. I'm ready to, my stuff fits in a U-Haul, and I got the keys and the engine's warm, just like, need job, will do. Try 2 years. Yeah. That's why I was saying, very long time for me. That's nothing compared to what a lot of people have gone through. So I can't really bitch about it. I mean, I can bitch about it because that's kind of what I do all the time. But compared to people who got internships and other stuff, who that were basically just walk-on jobs, like at EA, interns that were successful with us, like we would get interns from like CMU usually, and some of the bigger universities, and if they were good, like EA would pay for their college or the rest of it, and then they would join EA right after they graduate. That was very successful. We got lots of good people that way. And of course, with the internship office at the college I went to, they had their favorites. The internship people had their people that they liked, and they did their stuff. Oh man, Lucas dropping the mad cheers. Welcome back, Lucas. I don't think I've seen you around for a while, but thank you for your support and everything like that. Working on these mission systems. Is this pop-up only? It is. Double reset players. This is trash game mode. Do cheer 100 times. Ah, Jesus. For $100, you control somebody for the next year. Even better, they have to be online. Science pays fuck all. Yeah. That's unfortunate. And it's one of the reasons that I, picked engineering as a profession I wanted to get into was, you gotta look at it and be like, well, what? I wish they had more of that in schools, because I benefited from having my brothers go ahead of me. I'm the youngest, and some my like half brother and half sister are significantly older than I am. So you can look and see and be like, oh, well, that guy went and got a history degree, and that didn't do shit except give him like a bunch of debt and 4 years older or something. I don't really want to do that. And then my other brothers, like going trying to do med school or going to a larger university or a smaller one. Yeah. Yeah, I think the other thing where for research maybe the only way to make money is to tell them the answers they want to know. Like, what are you researching? Well, I'm researching that Big Macs are healthy for you. Be like, well, how's your research going? We're still undecided. We have, enough data to come up with some statistical anomalies that, eating a Big Mac every day actually prevents you from dying from heat exhaustion. But it raises your risk for stroke. What experience did I have when you first came into games? The college I went to was a 4-year college specifically for games. So the experience I had was 4 years with a bachelor's in science in with a focus a bachelor's of science in real-time interactive simulation. It's an actual degree, which is not like a bachelor's in computer science. It's a bachelor's in real-time interactive simulation. So everything was lined up for games for that college. That's why I went there as opposed to a larger university where I would get like a CS degree or a CE degree. They're just and I had never programmed in high school. I had never done anything except like some summer camp stuff when I was a senior and junior in high school. And so getting into the game industry, literally, I just had my school projects and a lot of alcohol in my system in order to get a job. That helped out. It also helped that they were drunk when they were interviewing me. That helps level the playing field in terms of intelligence and experience sometimes. My liver is younger than yours, sir. So I need to go to the event graph and add in this guy. Kirk the janitor. It's true. Yeah, basically, the tech sector is just horribly starved of engineers. It's stupid. Like it's so it's so bad that you don't even have to be a good engineer to once you get like some experience on your resume or something, it just doesn't matter anymore, which is just silly. You kind of wonder when that bubble will burst and everybody, we get a big glut of engineers coming through at some point, screwing everything up. But I don't know. Maybe everything will go to just automation and advancement, and it'll just be the new. You just kind of have to do it, sort of thing. All right, this is retry current mission. don't have the initial experience, so things are hard. So which field are you in? I mean, you're talking about version control, so I assume more engineering stuff. But what specifically are you looking for? Let me see. End current mission. Alright, so end current mission. And this is advance to next stage. All right. You're doing comp sci. You want to go into games, most of your work is in back-end development. Well, the only reason I got a job in games was because I put server engineer on the top of my resume, and people needed server engineers. So, my first job was writing Java code for backend for a Facebook game. The Facebook game happened to be Dragon Age Legends, and I was working at Electronic Arts. But I was ready to take whatever. But so, there's precedent there, I think, for back-end development getting you where you want to go. Alright, so UI, skip current cutscene. Blacksmiths make the work. Yeah. Do I see myself as an artist? No. Not a chance in hell. Let's see. So if you're trying to get into games and the biggest thing about getting into games is to just get into it, because the first job is the hardest, but after you have games on your resume, getting into games is actually pretty simple. So the biggest thing that I've seen that people think they can do is get a job somewhere else. Like I'll go to meetups here in town or other places for engineers, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to get into games." And I'll ask them, "Well, what do you do?" And they're like, "Well, I'm a web developer for this other thing, or whatever. I do this or that." I'm like, "Well, have you worked on any games?" You're like, "No, I do like some game jams or something, but I don't have enough time and other stuff to do like a real long-term project." It's like, well, you'll never get into games then. You gotta just get that first job in there, and that's how you do it. All right, let's see. We want to retry current mission. And the biggest thing for finding a job, I think, is just being willing to move somewhere else. You might look for a games company then. Yeah, it's really common. Yeah, down to the game. That's literally what I've heard from like 10 different people in the last 10 years who have had that exact same story. And yeah, and also people on teams. Like one guy, when I was at Amazon, we brought him on from the greater Amazon thing, and he had been an engineer for He'd been an engineer down in South America for like 5 years, working on credit card stuff, and then he moved up to Amazon in Seattle, and he was doing work on the storefronts and stuff like that. And then he finally got over to the game studio working as a back end engineer. And there's a lot of those where the biggest problem we had at Amazon hiring people is we'd hire secret gameplay engineers because they come in as like, oh, I'll do tools, and then they get there and they're like, well, what I really want to do is gameplay, and they're like, fucking hell, not again. But it's actually pretty effective if you weasel your way onto a game team doing non-game stuff. You can almost always weasel your way over to doing game stuff because people are naturally nice to other people most of the time. So usually you can, be like, well, I'd like to help on this part, and then do something that makes you absolutely critical to it, and then they can never, they can never get rid of you. So. And then once you got that, you transfer somebody somewhere else because people might be pissed that you got hired on for tools, and then they have to go hire another tools engineer. And I don't know. I haven't burned any bridges that way, but then again, I stuck to back end engineering because I found I really like it. Okay, so we have all our events for doing these things. We need to have this. Let's have a Boolean here for missions, which is wants to advance. No, we can just do that in advance to next mission step. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to see what state we're in. So that's in our update function. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, the art of weaseling is a very important thing. You must study the art of weaseling. Alright, when we advance, pre-mission cutscene. Yeah, so that's what we need to do. We need to have a Boolean which is intends to skip. But the other thing is game development is a very difficult industry. A lot of people want to be game developers and find out very quickly that they don't want to be game developers. So there are always words of warning. It's like whenever somebody talks about how to be a successful independent developer, usually their talk starts off with, so a lot of you here to learn how to be a successful independent developer, I'm going to tell you right now, all you're going to fail, so you should all leave. And of course, nobody leaves. And he's like, all right, cool. Well, maybe I can make your life not as horrible as it's going to be, but it's going to suck. So, you brought this on yourself. All right, so advance to the next mission step. I'm just going to say wants to skip is true. And this is on a different frame rate than the rest, and all we need to do... When are events fired? Fuck, I don't know. Let's make a state change function. And we'll just call this from all the rest of these. Yeah, the other thing, I guess, when I was interviewing when I was not, like when I was out of college, and I had experience working on student projects trying to break into actual studios. It seems like what was more successful was just going for it. People really like to hear that you can solve their problems. And that's why somebody is, the person, if people are interviewing you, they want to hire you. It's a pain in the ass to interview people, and you really want those positions filled for your job. So just tell them you'll get it done, and you won't let anything stand in the way, and people will hire you. Look, I like this guy. He says he can solve my problems. It's like you don't want to hire somebody who shows up and is like, well, I don't know any of that, and I'm, well, I'll try to learn. I'll do my best. I won't let you down. And you're like, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, I'm going to do all this, and fuck you for ever doubting me. You're not promising something. You're making them have to say no. Set loading stage. That's another thing with getting promotions in companies, especially big corporations. The thing is, you always got to make it so your manager has to say no to you getting a promotion, as opposed to the manager needing to say yes. Like just the difference being that set in stage. If they have to actually do work to say something, make sure that that response that they have to do work for is the response you don't want, because if anything, that's true. Managers don't have enough time to deal with all the bullshit they deal with, so if they can just say yes and get out of a meeting, sometimes they'll just do it. Like, fine, Jesus, we'll put in the paperwork. Just stop being such a pain in the ass all the time. Post-mission cutscene. Alright, so now we've got a function that's called everywhere where we do an edge. And we can do this like wants to skip stuff. And that's being checked and sort of stuff. So set post stage cutscene. Let's do our update post stage cutscene. We've got local skip triggered, which is going to do all this stuff. Cutscene finished. Set post stage. Post stage has got this. If has next stage, local skip triggered, auto end stage, has reach time and auto end, local skip, set next stage, set loading stage if there is one, otherwise go to post mission cutscene, as if local skip triggered, or that, and post mission has if local skip triggered. What is this? You're gonna go buy the game? You don't have to buy the game if you're broke and looking for a job. Just wait for one of the updates and make sure to enter your email and on our website, because we give out codes all the time. But you should sign up for, enter your email there, and we only send emails when our updates go live, and that's also when we're online playing it. And it's always Adam is streaming on Twitch. It's usually both of us, and we hand out codes pretty much that day. If you sign up, you're there, you will get a code. Like, we have not had an update day where I have not handed out a code to every single person who showed up. So you can always wait, but support otherwise is always useful, because then we can do things like pay for music. Still at uni? You're from industry? Well, get a damn internship. Don't get an unpaid internship unless you have a lot of free time, though. Unpaid internships are bullshit for engineers. Unless it's something you like to do. But I think the industry is doing fine. The industry's actually been pretty healthy comparatively. Compared to like 2009 when I jumped in. And a lot of stuff got screwed up over, like Firefall, and some big projects collapsed, which screwed up a lot of stuff. But I think there's a lot more money coming into games now because of like Amazon and Lumberyard, because they're hiring a lot of people. So right now it's in demand, and I don't see that stopping. So you'll probably be looking at good stuff when you graduate. Okay, so if I boot this up, it goes into the mission. Start the mission. Pre-stage. You can start it. Yeah, the other thing is make sure that you always know what you've done. Because when I would interview people who are out of college, they'd always talk about what their team did, or this project, or how smart their professor was, or some bullshit. And I'm not interviewing your team or your professor. I'm interviewing you, and I really don't care how smart your professor is. I'm not hiring your professor. If I was hiring your professor, he'd be sitting in the chair and you would not be. So, don't tell me about that. Tell me about the cool shit you did and exactly how it worked. Alright, so this is post-mission. This is post-stage. So we go into post-mission. So we need to do the... I can't control anything, which is good. Does the cursor disappear? Yeah, the cursor disappears, but it's supposed to. Alright. I actually want to remove that in the editor. So always have something to talk about with yourself. And don't try to, like, God, that was the worst. The one guy that I said 6 times in a row, what did you do? Because he was trying to talk about some interesting project that he was a part of, but he didn't do anything on it. So then, like, when you can't actually tell me what you worked on, it's like, all right, you didn't do shit, did you? You just, like, were on the same team as these people that did cool things. It's like, yeah. Like, yeah, okay, well, don't talk about it then. I don't care. I'm getting upset at the mouse pointer disappearing on me. So I'm gonna go in the editor and disable that. So the viewport, right? There we go. Alright, so I'll add that to the global utils there. So let's go edit those things. Someone on your team committed a ton of random jar files with no explanation. That was her contribution for the 10-week project. Oh, Jesus Christ. Like, reverse searching the file names through Russian DuckDuckGo? Like, why? Like, the only reason you'd check in a whole bunch of jar files is, like, if you had a whole bunch of dependencies and shit. And for, like, your Java project. And I understand checking in a whole bunch of jar files and doing the dependency management stuff, like just by not doing dependency management. That's sometimes very valid. But don't get them off of Google, get them off of the fucking Maven repo. Like, just, you know, just go to the Maven repository and search for stuff like JSON or some shit. And you're like, ah, there it is. I'm going to go get that and grab the version. Like, if you're going to download shit, you don't need a DuckDuckGo that crap. It's all on mavenrepository.com. Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I am not a fan of dependency management shit in Java projects. That always pissed me off because everybody always be changing shit. And then somebody would always say like, well, a minor version update isn't going to contain any non-backwards compatible changes. And I'm like, oh yeah? Remember back in 2010 when I was on call and that wasn't the fucking case? Yeah. I'd like to have my weekend back. I think it's one of those things like if you take compile times away from programmers, they're gonna find a way to add it back. Um, so like for our Java dependency management, I just go through Maven.com and manually pull everything in and check it in, and then we just zip it up into a single jar file and run it. There is no dependency management. There's no waiting around for downloading the latest thing. There's no artifactory or whatever the hell bullshit spider web of setup, and it's just simple. If it's in the library folder, it's included. And then you go like, after a year, you're like, why the hell do we have, I can just look at it. Like if we go in here and we go to libraries and we're like, why do we have Commons logging adapters 111? And I'll be like, because I have no fucking clue why. And don't ask. And I found that's a pretty good way to deal with dependency management. It's just to never deal with it. I'm also a big fan of using code that you wrote yourself as opposed to using 2 million libraries. Like a lot of people will be like, oh man, we should use Guava and Juice and all this other shit so we have like all these immutable arrays and all this other stuff that just handles all this magical streaming crap for us. I'm like, or I could just use the language. It's like, And then they're like, well, we need this other dependency that pulls in this logging framework that does this thing, that does this other thing. And that's why we have to have all these dependencies. And it's like, I don't like you anymore. Why is it all drinks or just food and drink? I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, Lucas. Why is what all drinks? Oh, you mean like the dependency names? I don't know. That's one thing they do with open source projects is they name things off of stupid things that sound cool instead of being cool. I think my favorite name for a dependency is the tender dependency. There's the tender library, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to integrate tender into our project. And you're like, wait, why does the build server need a dating application for finding hookups? You're like, no, it's an eJabber, just XMPP chat service client. Like, why the fuck did they call it tender? Oh, it came out before tender. Why the hell did they call it that anyway? Why didn't they call it like XMPP library? You broke the backend the night before an actual customer used it? A lot of people get really upset about breaking stuff. I don't get upset about breaking things. I get upset about not fixing things. I actually get more upset with people who are afraid of breaking things, because if you're not, you just need to get work done, and as long as you're willing to sit there and just fix everything that you break until it works, that's what matters. Oh yeah, Chef, where you use programs like Knife and you have recipes and shit like that, where everything has like a theme to it, and it sounds, God, especially Chef. Fucking, that was the thing. The platform team at EA before I was the game server person, so I was on the platform team. They always talked about like chef and configurations and all this crap, and they're like, "Oh, I'm using knife to do this thing," and blah blah blah, and always talking down to everybody and using terms that nobody fucking understood, because if they had said I'm using the configuration tool to push configs, people would be like, "Oh, you're just updating the configs, cool." It's like, no, I'm using knife to deploy the cookbooks to the thing and make the meal. And they're like, "I really have no idea what you're doing, you must be smart." And you'd be like, "Oh, chef is broken." You'd be like, "Oh, that's bad, right?" Like, that sounds important, instead of our deployment system is broken, we can't deploy right now, or I took everything down because I missed a fucking comma somewhere. Your card is being declined. Well, that is unfortunate, sir. Let me see the let me check the payment gateway. Because I have seen declines in stuff. Yes, I get it. Just fucking take this shit off of my... Blocked. Ooh. Primary risk factor. This was attempted from an IP address that appears to be used by anonymous service. You're using a public proxy, sir. Because you are a high risk of fraud. You, sir, are a bad actor. And that is... that's a problem. You're connected to your VPN. There you go. Yeah, there's a reason I use Stripe for payments, and I don't do payments through like Bitcoin or some other shit, is because the payment stuff for Stripe and other things don't have a whole bunch of horrible refunds and fraud, and they really do a good job of that. Because the worst thing is when you have paying customers who aren't paying customers, or paying customers that are they don't know they're paying for it. It's like one of my friends has an Android app that sells for 99 cents in the App Store. I think it's DynaWalk Sim. Let me see if I can... He's got this game, DynaWalk Simulator, which is hilarious because of how broken it is. But he has had, out of people who bought it on like the Android store, they got about a 65% refund rate, where people will buy it, will play it, and then they're just all fraudulent purchases. And that's common with a lot of that stuff. Is you might not expect it as a well-intentioned consumer. You're not ripping people off, but people do that. People wouldn't do that. Go on the internet and spend somebody else's money. God, I keep missing. There we go. Language created by... And that was the thing with, to get back to the whole chef story. So I think a lot of open source projects use those to sound smarter than they are. And it actually made a lot of... There you go. Awesome. Well, sir, thank you for supporting the project, and you will be receiving all your friend codes. And when we go to Steam, you'll be getting that. and you can enjoy the amazing music that Lee Miller. Oh man, I actually got a personal email from your failed transaction about you. That's funny. So, after enough time, people kind of finally wised up that these guys that were talking in all these terms that nobody else understood actually didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Um, and we had tons of problems with Chef. So, one of the producers, after like getting super pissed off and just having like, it was just like enough. He printed out like a big poster of Chef from South Park and just put "I quit" on it. And stuck it up, stuck it up in the platform area. So nobody could talk about Chef anymore without basically just being like, yeah, Chef sucks, and we should feel bad about everything we do from now on. Okay, so I've got the mission screen. So UI screens. It is the host stage screen. So we need to implement that. So let's get going. Alright, fetch initial data, get all the things. That looks correct. So this is the post stage screen. So if we are in post stage, good. What was that? Pre-stage? Well, if we were on the post stage screen, what should we do? I mean, it's pretty much the only thing we should advance to is post mission. Otherwise, we should bail the hell out. Yeah, I think it's just it's all of these and just bail on the on that guy. If it's not post stage, if it's post mission, push that screen, but everything else, get rid of it. All right. So let's move these guys down and get another button in there. Alright, so this will be our post stage continue button.